Hello, everyone, and welcome to Southern Lee Cavalier Football and the Mike McClure Coaches Show. I'm Austin Thomas, and I'll be your host tonight as we talk Cavalier football and visit with Southern Lee head coach Mike McClure. As always, we want to thank our sponsors for helping bring you our show to each and every single Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. here on 105.5 FM WFJA. Wilkinson Chevrolet, Domino's, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, and Jones Printing Company. Tonight's show will be rebroadcast at 6 o'clock this Friday night prior to our 7 o'clock game on 95.1 FM, 1050 AM WWGP. Video of our coaches show will also be posted on the WFJA Facebook page each Wednesday by noon. I look forward to talking with Cavalier head coach Mike McClure tonight and bringing you exciting coverage of Southern Lee Cavalier football. We're going to take a short break and hear from some of our great sponsors. We'll be right back with Coach McClure right after these messages.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And we welcome you back to the Coach Mike McClure Show here on WFJA Sports 105.5 FM. Austin Thomas in the studio tonight, again with Southern Lee head coach Mike McClure. Coach McClure, thank you for joining us once again. So week 2 has come to its end, and unfortunately the Cavaliers not able to quite squeak that one out. They lose a close game at Green Hope in Cary by a final score of 17-12. And Coach, I believe the big talk after the game, certainly with Mike and I, and I'm sure with your staff and your players, was penalties, because that seemed to be the story, especially in the second half of that one.
Yeah, that really hurt us, all of the penalties that we had. Just going back and just even during the game, you notice we'll be in scoring range, ready to score a touchdown, and then next thing you know, we started at the 20, now we're all the way back at the 40 or 45. Scrambling, trying to make a play. And, the emphasis was with that just can't happen. We got to do a better job paying attention to the details and understanding the situation. I mean, I think it was 2 times that we had that situation. So if we score those 2 times, this game's not even close at that point. You understand? So it was just a matter of the penalties and not so much just offensively, but defensively as well. I mean, we jumped off sides quite a bit times with their particular offense that they were running with the shift and the movement. We jumped off sides, so that kind of hurt us as well. Down the stretch, and not coming up with some turnovers that we should have had that allowed them to stay on the field longer too.
You talked about that shift that we saw Green Hope's offensive line do. I don't know how many times on Friday night. And it did give the Cavalier defense some fits here and there. What is how do you work against that moving forward for such a young team and teaching them and being able to adapt mid-game?
Well, the biggest thing is we got to understand that we're faster than the majority of people that we play up front. Just because we're a smaller team, we play with smaller defensive linemen who's faster than offensive linemen. So we got to understand that teams are going to try to slow us down up front any way that they can. So to them, that's just a trick that they have to slow us down, versus their, some offense may run read option where the quarterback keeps it and then pulls it. That's one way. Or some teams go on 2, but that was just Green Hope's particular way of slowing us down. So we just got to understand the keys and tendencies a little bit more, understand that, when they're what they're trying to do in order for us to be successful at that, and just being patient and watching the ball. I mean, there's no really other way around it other than just watching the ball and understanding that teams are going to have to slow us down because we're so fast.
Well, moving on to some positive notes about Friday night's game, looking at the stats from the Week 2 performance versus the Week 1 performance. It's night and day different, especially offensively. Offense took a big jump in Week 2, over 300 yards of total offense. What major takeaways did you have from a positive side coming out of that game from what you saw from your offense?
Well, when we do what we're supposed to do and every man does his job, we're good. You know, we're good, we're explosive, we're quick, and we can do whatever it is that we want to do. And that showed Friday night. We were able to run the ball at will whenever we wanted to, but it's just cleaning up our mistakes on the back end. But I was really impressed with the way that we ran the ball, the way that we rotated guys in the backfield, and the way that everything was spread it around. So now teams have to game plan for more than one person. They can't just hone in on that one guy. They have to, understand that we got more than one guy that we can get the ball to.
I believe you had at least 5 or 6 different guys with carries on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
One of those being Robbie Sims, of course, who was able to scramble for positive yards a few times. Talk to us about the evolution of your sophomore quarterback, Robbie Sims, from week 1 to week 2 and what you saw last week.
As you said, it was night and day. I mean, he was composed throughout the entire game. Even when he threw an interception or he threw a few incomplete balls or he had guys chasing him when he scrambled out, he was never rattled like he was on week 1. And that shows a testament of how he controlled himself, how he really locked in and focused, and he took accountability, and he stepped up as we needed him to do, and he's only going to keep getting better and as we continue to play in the season, he's going to only be even more comfortable in that role and in that position. But it was completely, he never got rattled at all, which is a good sign and a good thing.
In the pregame show on Friday night, Mike and I were talking about how the Cavalier offense seemed like it needed some kind of big play to kind of bust out of its slump that it had in week 1. Talk us through the decision behind that touchdown pass play call that you had there in the first quarter that gave the Cavaliers their first lead of the season, and the thought behind going with something like that so early.
Well, it was just a matter of him. Honestly, that was him improvising and making a play, which shows that he was composed and he didn't freak out because guys was chasing him. He just kept his eyes downfield, done what he was coached to do. Made a few guys miss, and then he found Anthony over in the flat, which they had lost him. And I was over on the sideline actually pointing to Anthony, telling him to throw it to him because he was open. But like I said, that was just him taking the coaching and taking everything that he's worked on in practice and putting it into the game and having that transition from practice to the game, which was able to generate that big play.
Defensively, again, the Cavaliers look very solid. We're missing a couple of guys in the game that normally you would hope to have, but being able to force 2 turnovers and stay ahead in the turnover game in week 2 against Green Hope, that's a huge note for the Cavalier defense. Tell me about what you like that you saw out there and how you hope that defense continues to grow.
Well, like you said, the turnovers is something that we emphasize every week. We emphasize every day at practice, working turnover drills, working turnovers when we're going team against one another. Just trying to create more opportunities for the offense, and playing complementary football where we're taking care of the offense taking care of the defense, and kicking game is taking care of everybody as well. But just a matter of that, a way that we run into the football. Guys who are asked to step up, play different positions, different roles. They're doing it, and they're doing it well. They're doing it at a high level, and they want to be good at it. It's moving smaller guys to play defensive end. That's just something that some kids wouldn't even think about, wouldn't want to do. But our guys are willingly wanting to do that.
So a couple of weeks underneath your belt now, everybody's had some good minutes out on the field. Who are you seeing are stepping up to become the leaders of this young team?
Well, offensively, I would say that Anthony's doing a good job of keeping everyone straight. Robbie doing a good job of taking control of the offense like I've asked him to do. Mm-hmm. I challenged him on that, and he's responding, and he's getting guys lined up, and defensively, Michael Tate Blanks, I challenged him as well to take control of the defense and to understand that he needs to make sure everyone is accounted for on the front end and on the back end by him playing that middle linebacker position. And Dylan Green At safety, he's had a tremendous summer, and that is carrying over to the season. I mean, he had an interception this week, few tackles. He's coming down. He's lining people up. The guys in the secondary, lining them up. He's talking, and then those guys who are being selfless. Those guys like Jadarian Hamilton moving from linebacker down to defensive end, and Corey Hooker, who's moving from the weak side linebacker to go down and play defensive end as well. Those guys are just, hungry for wins and hungry for success, and so they're willing to do whatever the team needs them to do.
So to finish up discussions about last week, obviously it's a tough loss, but how have you been able to take that and work it into motivation this week throughout practice?
Well, it's been a while, if we're being honest, it's been a while since we've had a win. And so being that close to victory and being able to taste it a little bit and see what that feeling is like, I just told them, we just have to use that as fuel, use that as motivation for us to be even hungry now to go out here and to start winning and to start performing to the way that we're capable of performing. And we'll have that feeling, every Friday night, not just for a split moment as to when we're up, but we'll be able to take that feeling throughout the week, throughout the weekend, as we get ready for another Friday night, and then hopefully do it again and have that same feeling again. So I think it's motivation for our guys, and they're hungry for that first win.
Well, it certainly feels that way, Coach, and I know we're all excited to see this team continue to build itself. We'll take a real quick look at the scoreboard from last week, Week 2. Lee County 21, Overhills 14. Big victory for the Yellow Jackets there on the road. Green Hope again defeating Southern Lee 17-12. Grays Creek defeating Union Pines 35-12. Pinecrest getting their first victory of the season, 35-6 over Anson County. Butler coming in and shocking Richmond County. Second week in a row, Richmond loses at home, 40-7 is your final score there. Hoggard defeats Scotland County 18-8, and Hoke County defeats Lumberton 30-0. Quick look up and down these standings. Lee County 2-0, Scotland County 1-1, Pinecrest 1-1, Richmond County 0-2, Hoke County 1-1, Union Pines 1-1, and Southern Lee 0-2. So an interesting start to the conference. Certainly not a start that I think a few teams in the conference expected to have, but it's only going to get even more interesting as the season goes on. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break to hear from some of our great sponsors. You're listening to the Mike McClure Coaches Show here on WFJA. We'll be right back.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
Welcome back to the Coach McClure Show here on WFJA Sports. Austin Thomas in studio tonight with Southern Lee head football coach Mike McClure. Welcome you back to our second segment of the program tonight, where Coach McClure, we talked about last week's game, and now we get to really spin everything into a positive and talk about our players of the game for last week. So, as always, first we'll go with the Norman Financial Group and Bubba Subs and Pizza Offensive Player of the Game. And the player of the game that Mike and I selected last Friday night was Tyrese Douglas, junior running back. Had 13 carries for over 100 yards on Friday night. Looked really impressive. Coach, what can you tell us about Tyrese?
Yeah, Tyrese was a guy, he came in and joined us late in the summer. I actually, maybe 3-4 days before August 1 practice, and he came in and didn't know what we was going to get out of him, but once he caught on and learned the plays, he ended up becoming a player for us, and now he's starting offensively and defensively for us. So he's come in, he's run the ball hard. Not the biggest running back, but he does run hard. He's hard to bring down, and he ran well Friday night. I mean, it was one play where we thought he was down, and I thought he was down. I thought he was actually tackled for a loss, and he just came out of it and actually ran for probably about 25, 30 yards on that play. And that was a big play, and that ended up getting us within around the 10 or 15 or so. So, I mean, he's a hard worker. He wants to be good. He wants the team to be good, and so we're just happy to have him.
It's funny you talk about that play, because that's the one that specifically I think Mike and I thought about Friday night when we selected him as our offensive player of the game, because we thought he was down. The entire crowd thought he was down. I think everybody listening thought he was down. And then somehow out of this scrum, here comes Tyrese, busting off for some more yards after contact. And you talk about his speed due to his size. There were plays that he looks like he's just shot out of a cannon, busting through that line. He did have a touchdown on Friday night as well. So, Tyrese, again, really working well into this offensive scheme that you're putting out there on mixing things up on the ground. So congratulations to Mr. Douglas for being named the Offensive Player of the Game. And now we get to reflect on our Norman Financial Group and Bubba Subs and Pizza's Defensive Player of the Game. And Mike and I selected Jordarian Hamilton, a senior on the Cavaliers defense, a kid who not quite sure how many tackles exactly he had Friday night, but boy, I tell you, it felt like we were saying his name over and over again when the Cavaliers were on defense. So what can you tell us about Jordarian?
Yeah, he was one of those guys that I mentioned earlier during the show where, we brought him in and played to play linebacker. He thought he was going to play linebacker, for at the start of the season. But, we saw something towards the end of that Westover game. And when we moved him down the defensive line, it was it looked like two completely different, guys. And so we said we might have something here by moving you down the defensive end, which we stuck with. And, he looked good. And now, come back in the second week, and now he's the defensive player of the game. But like you say, he's just fast, he's strong, and he's hard to block on the end. And he's coming so hard. And so he's able to chase down the quarterback, especially from the blind side, which he done well on Friday night. And then he was able to stuff the run and have some tackles for the loss. So, he can only keep getting better from that position as he learns, new moves and learns exactly what it means to be playing down there in the trenches a little bit. But he's going to be good.
And he put on some good size over the summer too, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He did. He gained some weight. He really went into the weight room hard and really took it serious this summer. So,
and it's showing off too, because we've talked about guys being able to provide to the team in different capacities. He also had a couple of carries on Friday night. I know he's our defensive player of the game, but when you touch the ball twice and you total 31 yards on the ground, that's not a bad night either offensively.
It's not. Especially when you get down there and you need a short yardage gain or something like that. He's a good guy to put in for that, just because of his size and his speed and his ability to carry the ball.
And so now we get to move on to our Coach McClure Player of the Game. This, of course, is brought to you each and every single week by Wilkinson Chevrolet, picked by Coach McClure himself. So, Coach, who was your Player of the Game for last Friday?
Overall Player of the Game for last Friday, we're going with Anthony Robinson. Anthony's just one of those do-it-all guys. Like you say, he had the first touchdown of the night, made one guy miss, and he was off to the races from there. He ended up having 3 catches, I believe, for 75 yards and 8 rushes for 56. And then he came over on the defensive side and played a few plays on defense. Caught all our punts, did all our returns on special teams. So we felt it was fitting for him to receive Player of the Game for tonight.
And we talked about it earlier. He's one of those guys that you see as a leader on this team. Is it safe to say that week in, week out, things are going to go, not to say as well as Anthony Robinson wants them to go, but guys are going to be looking to him for things to be going well?
Yeah, we're definitely going to be looking for him to, make the big play. And I had that conversation with him. I kind of told him he needed to be able to take over and control the game. And he responded by coming out and making one guy miss and going to the house to start us off with the opening touchdown. So that's what kind of response I'm looking for, and that's leadership that I'm looking for out of guys, to step up and make the big plays when we need them made.
Well, absolutely. Every team needs guys like that. So congratulations to Tyrese, Jordarian, and of course Anthony for taking home some hardware this week for their efforts in last week's game. Real quick, got a couple minutes left in this segment. Want to take a quick moment to preview our game this Friday night. The Cavaliers return home and will host the South Johnston Trojans, a team that the Cavaliers traveled to last season and unfortunately had a little bit of trouble in that game, got behind early and just never really had a good chance on it. South Johnston 1-1 so far this season with games against Western Harnett and Triton. bit of a mystery you and I were talking about in the commercial break, but what can you tell us about South Johnston and what we can expect?
Well, they, a sound football team, definitely sound football team on both sides, offensively and defensively. Understand offensively they want to try to run the screen game and give us a lot of screen, and which we'll probably see because we didn't defend it well against Green Hope. Green Hope was able to score a few times, but I think they got called back on the screen game. So I think South Johnston will be leaning towards that. It's first. They run a 3-man front up front with defensively first odd front we'll see all year. So it's different for our kids, and getting adjusted to the odd front. We've been seeing even fronts all year, so definitely making an adjustment to the odd front with playing those guys. But it's a evenly matched football game Friday night.
So what do the Cavaliers need to do well Friday to come out with a victory against a team like this?
We got to stay penalty free. That's the biggest thing right now. That's what I've been harping on. Just not committing penalties when we're tired, when we're fatigued, and just paying attention to the details. That's what we've been preaching all year. That's one of our sayings is paying attention to the details, which we have to do. And we just got to come out and get off to another fast start. We get off to a fast start again like we did last week, clean up the penalties, and we'll be fine.
Well, Coach, we're certainly looking forward to it. Looking forward to the Cavaliers coming home this Friday night, and encourage you to come out and join us at Cavaliers Stadium. Coach, once again, thank you for your time this week for the Coach Mike McClure Show. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Coach Mike McClure here on WFJA. We're going to step aside for one final break. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And we welcome you back and hope you have enjoyed listening to the Mike McClure Coaches Show here on WFJA. I want to quickly remind you about the Cavaliers being at home this Friday night, and just as Coach was leaving, he did inform me that it is youth night at Cavalier Stadium this Friday night. So any local youth football players that show up to Cavalier Stadium with their football uniform on will get free admission to the game. Parents still have to pay, but if you show up by 6:30, the Cavaliers have something very special planned for the kids to be involved in the pregame ceremony. So again, we look forward to that as Coach McClure again continues to build a program at Southern Lee. I want to remind you to join us each and every single Tuesday night at 7:30 here on WFJA 105.5 FM, and this Friday night prior to the game at 6 o'clock on WWGP 95.1 FM and 1050 AM. Our Coaches Show is also posted on the WFJA website and Facebook page each Wednesday by noon. We also want to remind you to check out the WFJA website. Go to Sports, then High School Football, and you will see a choice of pages to include our results page with complete game articles posted by midnight each and every single Friday night, the conference standings and power rankings, schedules for all teams in the Sandhills Athletic Conference, and up-to-date season stats for the Cavaliers. We are glad you have taken these opportunities to join us this season for Cavalier football. Good luck to the Cavaliers this Friday night as they return home hosting the South Johnston Trojans from Four Oaks, North Carolina. We thank all of our sponsors for bringing you our show tonight: Wilkinson Chevrolet, Domino's, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, and Jones Printing Company. And we thank you for listening to WFJA and WWGP Sports. It's time for Southern Lee football.